Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rachel and I'm going to be doing a Q&A today for teachers. Also, if you're new here, I'm a second year first grade teacher. I taught third grade last year, so this is my first year in first grade. But we're gonna go ahead and get on into it. I'm reading the questions from my laptop. So the first question I got is about student teaching and tips for student teaching, and I have a whole entire YouTube video on student teaching tips, so I will link that down below, but I'll give you a couple of my top favorite student teaching tips. My first big tip is to really get to know your mentor teacher and feel comfortable with them. I had a really great mentor teacher and I got to know her really well, and so I felt comfortable teaching in front of her. I felt like I could be myself, and I feel like that just helped me have a better student teaching experience. It also made me more comfortable asking her questions and texting her being like, I have no idea how to teach this lesson, and I just feel like I really got to learn a lot from her through being comfortable with her and not being afraid to ask her questions, which leads me into the next tip. Whenever you ask questions during your student teaching, make sure you write them down, because you'll be like me and you'll regret not writing more down. I wish I would have started like a Google Drive folder and had like Google Docs in there of websites we used, books she read that I liked, games we played, anything like that. Good, Google Classroom things, all of that. Like, have that written down somewhere, because you may think that you'll remember, but then trust me, when you start setting up your classroom and like learning a new curriculum and all of that, like you're gonna be so overwhelmed and you may forget everything from student teaching. So definitely just like have that all written down and have it in one place, and that'll definitely help you. All right, tips on finding the right school to teach at. So I teach at a private school. I absolutely love it. I found my school because I went to school here growing up. So another question asked, like, how did I pick out my school? That's really how I picked out, is because I went there. So that really helped, and I knew that I loved the admin. My principal was great. The people I work with are great. So if you're trying to find a school to work at, definitely do your research and ask people. I feel like word of mouth is very important. And so definitely just like post on Facebook or ask friends and family like, hey, have you heard of this school? Do you know anybody that works there? Try and find somebody that works there and then ask them from their own personal experience. I feel like that'd be so helpful. I didn't have to do that, but I know some of my friends that did that, and they found people that worked at that school and asked them like, hey, what do you love about working there? Or what do you not like about working there? And just have like a pros and cons list and like what really matters to you and what doesn't matter so much to you. And you can like kind of sort through those things when finding a school. And no school is gonna be perfect, but you can definitely look at those pros and cons and figure out like what matters to you. And if that school has all of those things and checks all those boxes, then it might be the perfect school for you. The next question is, as a junior in college, when and what should I start collecting for my first year of teaching? I would definitely say go ahead and start collecting now, because you never know. I would have a tub no matter what year in college you are, and you're gonna be a teacher like for sure, then have a tub. And I was just telling my TA this the other day, who's gonna be a teacher in a couple of years after she graduates from college. But get a tub and label it like teaching things. And when you go to TJ Maxx or Target or whatever and you see things that you want for your classroom, go ahead and get it then. So one, you're not spending all your money at the same time like the summer before you start teaching. But two, you don't know if they'll have that then. So if you see something that you like and you'll use it, it's not just like fluffy stuff that like to make your classroom look cute. I mean, it might be, but if like for a fact you're gonna use it, go ahead and get it and then keep it in that tub. And then before you start teaching, go through that tub and see what you have and what you still need, and that'll help you kind of like filter through. But then you'll also have a little good collection of things. And another big tip is to go ahead and create an Amazon wish list. And anytime you see something, maybe in one of your classrooms, one of your friends has this, your mentor teacher has this, like a professor recommends it to you, of like, make sure you have this in your classroom, or this is the best kind of pencil sharpener, or these expo markers are the best. Whatever it is, go ahead and add that to your wish list, because you'll be so surprised at how many people will donate things to your classroom. I was blown away by how many people were like so gracious and donated to my classroom. Like, honestly, so sweet. So go ahead and have an Amazon wish list, and then when you graduate, before you graduate, you can post it on Facebook and you can be like, hey, if you would like to donate to my classroom, here's some things that I would like, and they might get it for you for graduation. So that is a big tip, and definitely something that helped me start building my classroom. Tips as a first year teacher to balance work and home life. My biggest two things are, don't take anything home to work on, leave it all at school. That is stuff to do at school, so just do it at school, don't do it at home. Separate the two. And boundaries. So make sure you're not staying too late. Don't put so much pressure on yourself. So don't, be like, I've got to stay here until I finish this. Like, it's not going anywhere. You can finish it the next day. So leave at a good time, and also don't check your email or like class dojo or anything once you leave school. I did terrible at this last year, like so bad. It was honestly horrible. Like, I made myself available all times of the day. I checked Dojo, I'd respond to Dojos at 11 p.m. at night. I would be checking my email, and it honestly just made it like so overbearing for me, and it just really wore on me throughout the year. And at the beginning of the year, you're kind of like all for it, and you're like, yes, I want to set a good impression on these parents. I want to be available whenever they need me, but that's just like not practical, and it's not going to be good for your mental health or your emotional health or really anything. So just don't do it. Start at the beginning of the year. I did this year. I made it very clear, like if it's an emergency or if it's like a very important question that needs to be answered, you can text me, but otherwise class dojo me or email me and I'll get back to you the next day. So they know that that's like the expectation of my classroom, and it's been amazing this year, and I'm just like so happy that I did that. So definitely those things will help be able to balance the two. Tips for applying to jobs. So I guess this would kind of go hand in hand with the tips on finding the right school to teach at, like look at the schools. But this is just kind of like a tip that I got from a principal is if your school, if you're applying to public schools and you apply through like a county website for like a bunch of schools, go to whatever schools you like really want to work at and find the principal's email and email that principal and introduce yourself. It'll help you stand out from the other people who just like sent an application, because they're going to be getting so many applications, then that'll like set you apart from them, and they'll remember like, oh, so-and-so like emailed me and introduced themselves, and tell that principal why you want to work there and the things you love about the school and some good qualities that you have and your work experience or whatever it may be. So that is a big tip that a principal told me, and that's what I did when I was applying to schools. So if you've watched my TikToks or you follow me on Instagram, then you know that we have quiet time for about 10 to 15 minutes every afternoon when the kids get back in from recess. So somebody asked, what do I do during that quiet time? So my kids have 3 options. They can read, they can put their head down, or they can work on catch-up work. Sometimes during quiet time, I have them do like something specific. If like we just didn't get to it that morning, like a grammar worksheet or whatever, then they may have to do that. But that is basically what they have to do for quiet time. Most of my kids will either do. So I got 2 very similar questions. Did you pick first grade, and why did you have to change classrooms? So I did say yes to first grade. I didn't like say like, I want to teach first grade and I got to pick out my grade. But basically whenever I came, I was taking over somebody's maternity leave for them in 2nd grade, because it was February of 2021. It was after I finished student teaching in December. So I finished off the year, and I knew taking that position, it was like a floater position. So it was kind of wherever enrollment led me. So the next year, which was last year, they needed an extra teacher for 3rd grade. So I moved up to 3rd grade with them. And then mid-year last year, they were like, we think we need a 3rd first grade teacher. Would you want to go to 1st grade? And I was like, yes, absolutely, because I definitely wanted to go lower. So I picked to go to 1st grade kind of, but that's why I changed classrooms, and that's why I'm in 1st grade. All right, must-haves for first-year teachers. I have an entire Amazon list of top teacher must-haves. I'll link it below, but some of mine that I can just like think off right off the bat. Teacher book bag. I use Himawari, laminator, doorbell, electric pencil sharpener, mesh pouches. I know there's more, but those are just some that I use all the time, and I highly, highly, highly recommend. But definitely check out my Amazon list below, because that's what I did. And whenever I like first started teaching, I just would like look through people's list and add things to my Amazon wish list for people to donate. That was super helpful. How do you teach phonics in your classroom? So we use Becca for phonics, and they really focus on special sounds. So pretty much as soon as I say it's phonics time, my students all turn their chairs towards the front of the classroom where I am, and we go over our special sounds. So I'll have them all stand up, because I really like to get their bodies moving as much as possible and make learning the special sounds as fun as possible. So we do it different ways every day. I might say boys do this chart, girls do this chart. I may say we're gonna clap it out. I may say we're gonna jump like to it. Whatever it is, make it fun and get their bodies moving. It'll help them remember it more. So we always start off doing all of our special sound charts, and then we also go over all of our like rules that we've learned. So like reviewing all of that. Then we'll do some like whiteboard work. Sometimes we do whiteboard work with special sounds. Sometimes it's just like whatever thing we're focusing on that day. If we're learning a new special sound, then I'll do, before they even get their worksheet, we'll do some practice on the board, and then we go over their worksheet together, and then they'll do the worksheet. That's kind of how our phonics lessons go, in like a short way. Hopefully that helped. How do you deal with discipline and classroom management? So for classroom management, I use Class Dojo. I love Class Dojo. I think it's like the best app ever. My mentor teacher used it, and I also just heard a bunch of people use it, so that's how I got into using it. I didn't use it that like little chunk of second grade, but I used it last year. I'm using it this year and I love it because you can have positive points and negative points. And it's great because it notifies the parent every single time their child gets a point and loses a point. So it's kind of like a nice way to like communicate with the parents as well, because you know, if you're a parent and you notice like your child lost 10 dojos that day because of this, and this, then like you already know what to talk to them about whenever they get in the car and you know how their day was, or you can have those conversations with them. So that helps me as a teacher know like, okay, the parents already know. I don't have to send 10 different parents an email today after school saying that their kid did this, and this. Like dojo already lets them know, unless it's obviously like a big problem. But that is super helpful. And then I also use weekly motivators, and I have a bunch of TikToks and stuff on that, so I won't go too far into detail on that on here because my TikToks will show you more about it. But basically we use a weekly motivator. It can either be individual, table group, or whole class, and it's something they're working towards. I really like to use positive reinforcement in my classroom, and I've noticed that that just like is more effective. And so for weekly motivators, that's great. And then also just like really praising the ones who are doing what they're supposed to be doing. So if I have like a bunch of people talking when they're not supposed to be talking, but I see like 2 people who are, you know, doing what they're supposed to be doing, then I will really praise them and be like, I love the way that Sally is sitting so quietly and she's doing her work. Like, Sally, you can get 5 extra minutes of quiet time, or you can, you know, and like rewarding them for that behavior. And then the rest of your class will be like, you know, and it can be like things like, oh, you know what, I see that, you know, Jimmy is sitting here and he's doing his work. You can go get a stuffy to sit with you while you do your work. Like that is like they want to do their work so quietly because they want to be the next one to be called on to get a stuffy. So like using positive reinforcement is great. And I use quiet critters for talking. So they each have a quiet critter on the corner of their desk every single morning. And if they talk when they're not supposed to talk, then their quiet critter has to go home to the front of the classroom. And then at the end of the day, if they still have their quiet critter, then they get a sticker on their sticker chart. And when they get 10 stickers, then they get a desk pet. So that's also great. So those are kind of like a bunch of different things that I do. But this year has been really great and very effective with all those different things. So yeah, it's been honestly such just like a breath of fresh air that I don't have to worry about like a ton of things, because I feel like dojo works great. Quiet critters work great with talking, and my weekly motivators are always motivating them, so that's great. Is the pay cut that comes from teaching in a private school worth it? So it's funny because I had somebody one time DM me and they were under the impression that private school teachers made more than public school teachers, and that's actually not the case. So private school teachers do not make nearly as much as public school teachers, but I definitely think it's worth it. I teach in a private Christian school, and like as a strong believer, I love that I can talk about my faith with my kids and that we teach Bible at my school, and I just like love that so much. So even just like aside from the Christian aspect, I love teaching in a private school because it gives you more freedom to do things and you don't have as much paperwork, and flexibility is so much more. There are so many pros to working at a private school. So yeah, one of the cons is the pay, and obviously it's different for everyone. It's different where you live and just like what your life is like, whether or not it's like manageable. But for me, it's definitely manageable. It's definitely livable, and I definitely think it's worth it. Okay, I love this question. I don't know if anyone's ever actually asked, what inspired you to start a social media teacher from a fellow teacher who wants to start? I actually started Life with Little Learners because one of my professors when I was student teaching had us, she was like, create a Twitter or something to keep up with schools around you and to track like your student teaching journey. Well, like, I've just like never been one into Twitter. So I was like, I'll just do Instagram. So I made an Instagram, came up with a name, and I really was just like on there to follow my other teacher friends that were like also student teaching with me and find ideas that I could save for when I want to be a teacher, and also just like document my student teaching journey. Well, like probably I would say it stayed pretty steady, like under 100 followers. And then once I started teaching, I just started like posting more, and I've always like just loved content creators. Like I've always kept up with YouTubers, all those things. And so I kind of just like started posting more, and my page just started growing. And then I would say probably after like 4 to 5 months of me doing that, like I really saw the potential of like having a teacher Instagram and doing social media as like a job. And the Lord has just like blessed me so much through my social media in ways that like I literally never could have imagined. So like also if you're here and you have been following me, like thank you so much, because it is just the biggest blessing ever. And just I don't deserve it. So thank you so much. But that's kind of what inspired me. And I would say if you're looking at starting one, definitely do it, because one, it's so fun. Two, you will like meet so many fun people. I met my 3 Instagram best friends through Instagram, and I actually flew to Texas by myself to meet them. And it's just like wild. Like I never thought 2 years ago that that was like even something that would ever happen in my life. So like, it's just amazing, and I really, really love it. So I definitely recommend it, and you'll never know unless you try. So you should definitely start one. How do you plan prep for the upcoming week? So my team teacher is amazing, and she has pre-made lesson plans for like each week, so we can kind of stay on track, and we don't meet to plan. My team all meets on Thursdays to kind of just like check in and be like, hey, here's the Bible verse we're doing next week. Here's field trip information, da 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 da. We don't actually sit there and plan together, but me and one of my team teachers, we make sure we're on the same page about everything. And then on Wednesdays, I write it all down and I'll tweak it to however I'm gonna be doing it, just so like we're similar, but like we may be on different workbook pages and all of that. So I always plan on Wednesday, and that gives me enough time to where if I need to go buy anything for lessons for the next week, then I have time to go over the weekend to get anything for experiments or my weekly motivators or games or whatever it is. So I definitely recommend planning far enough in advance so that you have time to get anything that you may need to get for lessons. And I also prep my classroom every Friday afternoon for the next week, and that has been so helpful, and I've always done it. And I just like, if I came in Monday morning and didn't have it ready, it would be so stressful. I do not get to school any earlier than I have to, so it's just like great for me to come in on Monday mornings and have everything ready that needs to be ready, and just like sleep better on Sunday night knowing that I don't have to worry about anything the next morning. So I go ahead on Friday afternoons, I switch their flexible seating, I flip my calendar, I write my new spelling words, my Bible verse, like everything. I get it all good to go. So when I come in Monday, it's all ready. Alrighty, you guys, that wraps up our Q&A for today. So if you want to be a part of the next one, then make sure you follow me on Instagram, because I'll do little question boxes and you can submit your questions there and they might be answered on my next Q&A. I like to do these every couple of months with new questions. Maybe some things have changed, maybe not, but just so you guys can ask me anything you want. So definitely follow me over on Instagram, and hopefully you guys liked this Q&A and it was helpful. Make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed, and I will talk to you guys later.